So last year around this time, I made a video telling you guys kind of what I listened to in the year. But last year it was just kind of me trying to remember what I listened to because I wasn't really keeping track throughout the year. But this year, I decided at the very beginning that I should just make a playlist and keep adding to it throughout the year to make the most accurate representation of what I listened to in the year. And now that the year is finally coming to a close, it's December 28th is when I'm filming this. I thought, now's the time to set this playlist free and, start a new one for 2023. So you guys get a playlist of 85 songs to listen to, and I'll talk about some of the highlights of the playlist. Basically, just, I kind of look into what I listen to and what I get influenced by for my music. So one of the first things on my playlist is Light Switch by Charlie Puth because, at the end of 2021, he started teasing his album, and I thought, I know that a lot of people really, really dislike Charlie Puth, but I have a lot of respect for him as a musician because he makes, really, really dope backing tracks, and, of course, his voice, he's a great singer as well. And this was like a really highly anticipated song, and when it finally dropped, it's a great song, and I listened to it a lot, so I thought, it'd be fitting to put it on here. And then, at the end of the playlist, when the album finally dropped on October 7th of this year, I included the song Loser on my playlist because that was one of the songs in the TikToks that he teased that I really, really liked. It was probably my favorite at the time. At this point, I really can't pick a favorite because I really like all the songs on that album. I guess I'm really pointing out particular songs here. The entire album as a whole, Charlie by Charlie Puth, is an amazing album, and it was probably, it was gonna be my favorite of the year, but then more people kept releasing music, so I had to change what was actually my favorite. But I'll get to my top 3 album ranking in a little bit, probably towards the end of the video. But I know that Charlie by Charlie Puth was like really, really up there on the greatest album of the year. The amazing loop artist Kells announced her album this year. I had already been following her because of Vinyl Moon, which is a vinyl subscription service that featured her back in 2021. And she announced her album, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go buy the CD, and I have the CD now. Here's the CD of her album. I listened to this one a lot. But at the time, she had released a few singles, and I was like, oh well, I guess I really like these tracks. There's a reason that I followed her, so I thought it's fitting to add to my favorites playlist. So now 2 of her songs are on there: Guitar and Peaches and Lover, which are 2 really, really awesome beats that I think, fit nicely on my playlist. Back in 2021, Bill Wirtz started posting on his channel again, and he posted 4 songs in 2021, but in 2022, he started posting a lot more often. So there are, really a lot of songs by Bill Wirtz on this playlist, Favorites of 2022. And I really like his style because he mixes that kind of jazz element with whatever DAW he's in. I think it might be either FL Studio or Logic Pro. And, the way that he mixes things, his animations are great too, but really the songs are what I think are the strongest here. Some of you guys might have heard of this guy on YouTube, Pogo, who remixes movies mostly. That's how he got famous, but besides making remixes out of movies, he kind of makes beats just like stand alone. But what he really is great at is taking samples from records or off YouTube, off the internet, and just kind of making beats that are mostly samples that are like barely anything of his own. And the style that he does it in is, really, really dope. And I have tried my hand at sampling, and at this point in time, I'm not really that great at it, but I know that in 2023, I am going to start trying to do a lot more sampling in my music, just to try and, get that style into my music because I really, really like it. 2 of his tracks have wound up on my playlist. There's one called Polka Dot Positive, and there's one called The Boss. Both of them are from his album Cosmolux, which came out about a year ago. And I think the thing that is the same between both of them is that they both rely on a lot of samples to kind of keep the beat moving. Like, yeah, they have their elements, the kick and the ride cymbal or whatever, but a lot of the elements of the song have to do with the samples that he uses. Another YouTuber that really, rose to fame this year was Jazz Emu. Of course, he's great at jazz. It's in his username. Of course, he's good at jazz. And he also has a really, really great voice. For his albums that I've been paying attention to this year, which are Humilis and Digital Spool. I don't know if he does the producing himself. I wouldn't be surprised if he does. But there are a few tracks that he made this year that, and I think maybe even last year, that I think, are really, really great tracks that fit nicely on my playlist. They have a lot of elements of funk mixed with electronic music, and I really like that style. I don't know that I'll ever be able to create music in that style just because a lot of his music relies on his voice, which is, amazing, of course. But if I had a voice, I would try to make that kind of music, but I don't sing well. And then in August, my good man Smiley Music put out his first, I don't know, it's not technically his first, but off of his next project, All You're Gonna Get was released, which was, at least for me, it was a highly anticipated single. And I mean, honestly, it is a really, really, really dope track. I remember back in August having it on repeat. I know that he did a lot of the production himself. I think it might have been all the production. I'd have to ask him. But, what ended up being the final product is really, really awesome. And, I mean, it's well written. It's well produced. I mean, everybody that did work on it, kudos to them. As a kid, I watched a show called Good Mythical Morning, which is, still a show that's running on YouTube today. But one of the projects of Rhett, and Link, who made the show, Rhett decided to make music as a kind of a solo project this year, country music under the name James and the Shame. The album that he put out, I wouldn't say is necessarily going to be on my top 3 albums, but there is one song that stood out for me, which is called Where We're Going. It was released as a single, and it's kind of a duet between him and his wife. And I think that the harmonies on this song are amazing, and whoever did a mixing job on it, they did a really, really cool job on it. One of my favorite bands of this year and of last year was Low Island. They are a band based in the UK, and they make this kind of rock electronic fusion music. They're really heavy on synths and drums and bass. It's basically everything that I love to make in music in one. And they put out a new album this year. It was called Life in Miniature. And I would say if you can, go and stream it right now. It is a really, really awesome album. And I think, 4 of the songs on that album, 4, maybe it might have been 5, at least 4, wound up on my playlist because so many of the songs were good. I know that it was like different tracks were mixed by different people, but whoever is working with that band, props to them. I mean, seriously, this album was also so good that I pre-ordered the CD and now I have the CD. In the new year, I will probably be getting the vinyl of this. If they still have white vinyls, I will pay the money to get it, but the CD itself, already you guys gotta go listen to this album, like, right now. Click away from this video. I don't even care anymore. Go listen to them. Of course, at this point, every year the Beatles gotta make a new remix project where they put out new mixes of an old album, and this year they went and did Revolver. And I have to covered up Ringo's face. I have to point out that this remix project was probably the most drastically different from the original of all of the remix projects that they've done. But the song Tomorrow Never Knows, it was already a great song, but I think it was one of the best new mixes off this remix project, and it just, I've heard these songs so many times before, but it's, a rare case when I get to, listen to a song like I've heard it for the first time again, because, a new mix has just made it that good. And the last song, or really songs, album in general, that I'll point out is Taylor Swift's Midnights, which, of course, I've been converted to a Swiftie accidentally, and now I have the CD of Midnights because I had to. I'd say that is one of the greatest albums of this entire year. And I think it might have been 2 or 3 tracks that wound up on my playlist. It's just, I didn't expect to like it because I wasn't really into Taylor Swift, and I saw all this craze about Midnights, and it was like, fine, I'll listen to it just to, know what's going on. And then it was really, really dope. It was a great album, and I wasn't expecting it. But, Jack Antonoff, Taylor Swift, everybody that worked on the album, I'd say, they did a really, really great job, and, the album turned out amazing. At the beginning of the video, I forgot to mention that, yeah, I do have a CD of Charlie Puth's album as well, because, I had to get a CD of Charlie. I liked it so much, but I had to. So, of the 5 albums that I really given props to, which are Charlie by Charlie Puth, Midnights by Taylor Swift, Revolver Remix by the Beatles, Life in Miniature by Low Island, and 5 a.m. and I Can't Sleep by Kells. Now I have to give my top 3 ranking at this point. So the number 3 spot for me goes to Charlie by Charlie Puth. I'd say that even though it is a heavily pop album that really anybody can like, I'd say that there's so many good songs that are so well written on this, and also all of the hype before it. Whoever's on the marketing team for Charlie Puth, they did a good job as well. I'd say that this album was just so likable that it, took the number 3 spot for me. Number 2, of course, is Midnights by Taylor Swift. I already gave a bunch of props to it already, whoever worked on the team, but seriously, this album, again, it's so likable. There's nothing to not really like about this besides the fact that Taylor Swift might be basic, but it's just the melodies are so well written. There's little to not like about this album. And number 1 for me goes to Life in Miniature by Low Island. When this initially came out, I actually threw a lot of shade on this album. Well, I didn't throw a lot of shade, but I didn't think that it was as good because I felt so much attachment to what used to be my favorite album, which was Low Island's first album, which is called If You Could Have It All Again. Both are great albums, the first and the second, but I really, really liked the first, and at that point, I thought, when this came out, I thought that this album didn't really measure up to the same point that the first album did. But since then, this album has grown on me, and now it is the best album of 2022. Period. So I'd say go listen to all of my top 3 albums, and if you don't, then I don't know, do whatever you want. My playlist is linked in the description if you want to go and listen to it. It's 85 songs, so I don't know, make a day out of it, But it is literally everything that I have liked from January to December. In January 2022, I started the playlist, and little by little, I started adding more songs until I accidentally got 85 songs out of it. I guess I listen to a lot of music, I don't know. Also, I promise that I will be back on YouTube at some point regularly because I just haven't been on YouTube like I used to be. I have been working on my next release. I just, after the release of my last album, I started doing a collab with somebody. That's gonna come out soon. There will probably be another album at some point. I don't know. I'll put out more details soon. The live streams will probably be more regular, and I might get back to making videos regularly if I feel like it. Don't bug me if I end up not doing that, because I got a lot of stuff going on. I got school and everything. I don't know. But anyways, I don't know if I'm gonna put out another video before 2023, so this might be just my last video of 2022. So Happy New Year, I guess. I don't know.